Everyone. Today I am so excited because I'm going to get to speak with Hannah Mary McKinnon, and we're going to be talking about her brand new book, The Neighbors. I was able to get a NetGalley of it. It is coming out in March. It is so good. What a concept of a story. It is crazy. I can't wait to talk to her about how she thought of this story and how she built it the way she did. And this is just her second novel, too. And I am so excited she said yes. So, everybody, here is Hannah. Hi, everyone. I am so excited today to be speaking with author Hannah Mary McKinnon. And we're going to be talking about her brand new book called The Neighbors, which I was so excited to be able to read on NetGalley. I feel so privileged, Mary. Hannah, I keep calling you Mary. I was doing that before the interview. No, before, like, when I was writing it, I was like, why am I saying that? It's Hannah. But do you want to hold up the book so we can see the book cover?
There we go.
I love this.
That's it.
I'm still, I read the book this weekend, so I'm still there. I'm still in that book.
You're still with the characters.
I'm still with them. They're still like, I'm still walking around with Abby and Leah. I'm still like, I kind of do that. If I don't go right to the next book, I'm always living in that book that I read last.
Yes, they kind of follow you around for a bit.
They do. I mean, I'm sure as a writer that happens more than a reader, but I mean, I read so many books that if I have a little break between, I find I'm still thinking about that last book. That's why I don't read too many books prior to an interview, because then I'm living in so many different worlds.
Yes, must get confusing.
It does. But oh my gosh, you had me going, Hannah, on this book. Like, I had no idea. And okay, so this is your second book.
That's right, yes.
Which I find just utterly amazing because this is such a good concept. But this was such a ride. I mean, it was like as soon as I figured out where it was going, and then I got used to that, and then it was like this twist, and I was like, okay. And then I get used to that. I mean, and it wasn't like some books go really quick builds. This was such a nice, slow build to it that I don't know. I couldn't put it down. I couldn't get it out. Like once I started it, I couldn't sometimes I go back and forth, but I didn't go back and forth.
Oh, that's amazing. That's wonderful to hear. It truly is.
I will be telling everybody about this book.
Because
it's like a new kind of genre for me to think about, because as much of a thriller it is, it's like this, I guess what they call these like domestic thrillers.
Domestic suspense, yes.
Domestic
exactly.
suspense. I know. It's like every time I think I know the genres, they come up with this other genre that I've never heard of. And this is the new one, domestic suspense. So okay, so I love the beginning concept that it's like these neighbors and this guy and this girl know each other. They've dated, yes. Right? So, okay, so it opens with that. So we're like, oh, okay, so that's interesting. But it just keeps going. I was like, were you thinking of these twists and turns as you were writing it, or did you really know where this was headed?
Well, actually, it's very strange. I started off with the premise of an ex-boyfriend moves in next door. And I thought, ooh,
that's good.
That could be really awkward. Yeah. And then I started thinking, well, how awkward could I make it, and why? You know, if there were secrets between the two people, what kind of secrets could there be, and what kind of secrets could be really detrimental to both couples and both families? So I did have some of the twists and turns in mind. I'd say the twist at the end, the very last one, which I won't reveal.
We can't reveal. We do not do reveals.
No. That one was something that I had in mind, but not as strongly as it is in the book. I wasn't quite sure. And actually, Abby's storyline had a different ending initially. And I blame Game of Thrones on that one, because I watched Game of Thrones.
Awesome. Yeah, because I didn't see Abby's storyline coming at all. Like, you shocked me so much with that. I did not see that coming. But, she's this tragic person, and, I love the beginning. I always pick something that I absolutely love about a book. I try to like narrow it down because I have so many as a reader, like, you know, I can tell you how many things I love, but then I try to find that one. And for this book, it was the very beginning because you open it with the accident.
Yes.
And so that really draws you in that. And you know what? I hadn't really read any of the blurbs on this because I didn't want to, with it being a brand new book. I didn't know much about it. And I was like, right away, I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't going to be one of those, you know, nice, cuddly, cozy, you know, romance.
No.
No, I mean, the suspense, if you want to call it suspense, starts right there because all of a sudden you realize that it's not just an ordinary, something's happening. Something's weird is happening in this accident. And you find out what that is. But anyway, but that's what I got that. Like the first thing, I'm like, no, wait, something is interesting is happening here. And then and then you go on to build it. And when they first meet, because, you know, I don't think that's too much of a reveal because we know they meet. Okay. I loved how you had them meet, you know, that.
So awkward.
Oh my, I mean, I was hanging on every word, like, you know, in Abby's shoes, like because you know, he's there and you're like, okay. And then you switch to Abby and it's like, oh my God, she doesn't know but I know, and she doesn't know. And that's what I love about, you know, the different, when you break it down to different characters and their points of view. I thought you did a great job with that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And the timeline for me, I mean, I love timelines, but this was not confusing. I mean, you know, I listen to the books and I read them. Now the audio of course isn't out yet. And that's where sometimes timelines get confusing because you're driving and you're like, where are we? What are we thinking?
Yes.
But I think this was a very definite timeline break. And I think that it's going to be very easy for people to, you know, understand where they are. I don't think they're going to get lost at all.
Oh, I hope so, because having a non-linear timeline is always a little bit tricky, especially with multiple points of view, because there are 4. It can be very tricky to make. Well, I suppose there are 2 really, because Sarah and Nancy are always in the present, but certainly having non-linear can be really tricky. And it's really when you hand the book out to test readers, beta readers, and you say to them, it's non-linear, what bothers you? Because it might be clear to me,
right?
Because I'm writing it, so it should be. Although sometimes it got a bit confusing when I was writing it with dates and stuff. You know, I had to have an Excel spreadsheet to make sure that I had the dates right. Just to keep it clear in my mind. Because if it's not clear for me, it certainly won't be for the reader, and that can be a challenge. But I'm glad to hear that it's worked out okay.
Well, and that's what I loved about what you did, because I've read a lot of nonlinear and different point of view, but what I loved is that you revealed something happening in one character, and then so that's what I thought would have been the tricky part about writing it, because you're like, wait, what did I reveal in each character? You know, who knows what? Basically like a who knows what, you know?
Yes, it was a little bit of a who knows what and why and how and when.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Right. And, you know, I never found myself, I don't know what your beta readers felt about Nancy, but I I felt a little bad for her at some points, but a lot of the time I didn't feel bad for her, and I don't know why. I kept trying to be more sympathetic, but I was so sympathetic to Abby that I found her to be like the, I don't know, antagonist kind of.
A little bit, yeah, kind of very manipulative in her own way.
Yeah.
And potentially for valid reasons, but manipulative anyway. But interestingly, Nancy wasn't in the original manuscript at all. I mean, she was as a character, but she didn't have her own chapters. So when I went through the editing process with my editor, Michelle at Mira, one of the first comments she made was that she thought Nancy was underused as a character. And she said, what do you think about giving her own chapters? Because she kept thinking that Nancy was going to do something, that she was going to be more manipulative than she turned out to be in the original draft. And I'm really, really pleased that she made that suggestion, because it made me look at Nancy differently, and the things that I could get her to do were far more evolved in the final book than they were in the original manuscript.
Right. Well, like I said, I guess it's because we also feel so bad for Abby.
Yes, I know.
Because it's so tragic,
So
Yeah, and because it's so, it just seems like her life is so tragic. So you're starting to feel for her, even though she's being just as manipulative in times and just, but then you like give her a pass for some reason.
Yes, because there are reasons in her past that have made her the way she is. And tragic reasons, and then at the end we find out what really happened, and it's even worse.
It's even worse,
I
right?
Think.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, poor Abby. Can it get worse?
Yes.
Yeah, and of course, and then you're feeling bad for Nate because he's just this great guy, and it's just like, And then I'm like, is there a guy out there like him? I don't think so.
I loved writing Nate because he's, all he wants to do is fix stuff, including his wife, and her feelings and her heart. And it's just, I loved writing him. He was a joy to write. I was always pleased to get to his chapters and write them because he just had a special place in my heart, I think.
So when you were writing it, did you think about that? Like, who do I feel like being today? Who do I feel like writing from? Like, or did you have
because of the nonlinear timeline, I started writing past, present, past, present. I did start writing the book with chapter 1. Chapter 1 was the first chapter that I wrote. And then I think up until chapter 5 or 6, that's pretty well how I wrote it. And then I decided that actually this was getting somewhat confusing for me. So I decided to write the past chapters all in one go, and then the present chapters all in one go, and then interweave them and do a whole lot of editing. So that's how I went about it. Yeah. So it was for me at the beginning, or towards the middle, I guess. It did become a linear timeline because that was the way I wrote it. But then I had to shuffle the chapters to make sure that it was more intriguing, and I wasn't, because you couldn't read it in a linear timeline. That would just be weird.
Right.
But I suppose sometimes there were days where I would think, well, I'm not sure. And this is a tip that somebody gave me. They said, if you're stuck on a chapter, something's going to happen, but you're just not feeling it. You're not quite sure. Skip it and go to the next one if you know what happens afterwards. And I found that so liberating because I'd be sitting there stuck on this particular chapter thinking, I know this has to happen, say, in Abby's life or whatever, but I'm not quite sure how to write it. So I just skip it and go to Nate's, or skip it and go to Sarah's or whatever, so that I could kind of get my groove back, because otherwise you could just sit there for days on end being completely unproductive.
Yeah, and I guess it gives you an opportunity to think about it too, because maybe while you're writing them, you're like, oh, okay, now I can now I know what happens.
Exactly. Sometimes you just got to leave it be, and things will come a day or two later, or when you're washing your hair, oddly enough.
I come up with great ideas in the shower.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, and you have no pen around because you're in the shower.
That's right.
Well, I mean, like I said before, I can't believe it's your second novel, because a lot of authors will tell me, it's their third novel where they find their groove. But I really feel like this is your groove. I mean, I feel like this.
I hope I didn't peak early.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think this is going to be your genre. You write it so well, and it's, like I said before, it's becoming a thing. It really is, with women. Especially, I'm not saying that men don't find it interesting, but I find, just from being out there talking to different women readers, like we just suck this stuff up because, we, especially at our age group, because we kind of relate a lot.
Yes.
We've got those kids that are teenagers. We've got that marriage or divorce or, whatever. We've already been there, done that. And so we can relate to all of these characters. And then, of course, we can go into that world of, like, how bad could it be? And then you walk in and you're like, it's not so bad.
That's true. I mean, the first book I wrote, Time After Time, was a different genre. It was more of a rom-com.
Right.
I like to call it the love child of the movie Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow and Groundhog Day. It's kind of the love child of those two movies. And while I was working on the edits of that, I guess once it had been acquired, I started working on The Neighbours, and I thought, oh, this feels different. This isn't the same genre. I don't want to write the romantic stuff. I'm more drawn to the messy, darker things. So it was a bit of a gamble, because you don't, if one of your books in one genre gets picked up and then you write a completely different one as your second book, can be a bit of a gamble. But it all worked out great, and I just, yeah, I really like the darker stuff. The domestic suspense, I think, is really. I'm really happy that I've kind of migrated over to that genre, because I find the characters are so complicated and messy and flawed, and it makes them very interesting to write. Not that there's anything wrong with romance. It's not
Right.
that at all. But life doesn't always have a super happy, beautiful ending. And I think that's okay to write about as well.
Yeah, and I really thought, just I never know how to say this, but I think that the sex scenes were really appropriate. Like, you've got your 50 Shades of Grey sex scenes, and I'm like, that's just not my thing, even though I probably will go see the last movie just so I can see how it ends up. But, like when I'm reading, I'm not looking for, that's its own thing. But I thought
Yes.
how you brought it into this, it's real, okay? You can't just ignore it when you're talking about people that have had affairs and their love lives, and so you can't ignore it because it is a part. But I thought you did a great job. Like, I was like so into their different scenarios, which we also can't talk about, but I thought it was so real that it wasn't like hyped up like the other stuff and then not just ignoring it. You couldn't ignore it, so you had to bring it in.
Yes. I mean, when there's an affair, I think, like you said, it's a huge part of it, and it was, for me, the emotional side of that was really, really important. And they're not sex scenes to, hey, look, I've written a sex scene. It's
right.
more to convey the feelings that the characters have. And I did a writing course a couple of years ago, and we had to submit longer pieces, about 3,000 words. And I deliberately submitted a chapter with a sex scene, and I felt kind of embarrassed because it's a sex scene. It's a bit, oh. And I said to my tutor, I need to know whether this is okay, whether it's, tastefully done, because I don't want people to read it and go, oh, gross, this is erotica. I just want it to be tastefully done.
Right.
So that was the aim.
Yeah, and I interviewed an author one time in the very beginning, and I didn't realize that it was more of an erotica book. And then I had to do an interview with it, and I was like, so it was interesting. Like, I didn't even know what to ask.
Different genre.
It's not necessarily, it can be its own thing, that's all. But I just thought that with this, it's like, you can't ignore it. And it was really about their feelings, and you were getting inside their head because it was writing from that point of view. And then we were seeing what the other character thought. So like, we're seeing what Abby's going through in her mind, about their sex life. And then we see what Nate's going through. And then, so it's, I was like, wow, that's his perspective. I never thought of that before. That I have a perspective like that,
It was funny writing a male perspective.
Yeah.
The four perspectives, we have Abby, middle-aged female, no problem. Nancy, same. Sarah, 16-year-old. I, listened to a lot of 80s music as I was writing her chapters to get my mind back into that. And actually, one of the comments my editor made was, sometimes we need to tone her down a bit because she's so teenagey. We might need to pare it back a bit. That's fine. It's much easier to pare back than it is to push. And then, of course, there's Nate, and he's a middle-aged guy. Yeah. So I'd write some scenes and then read them to my husband and say, hey, does this sound like a dude?
Do you ever have these thoughts?
Exactly.
I know. The one, and this isn't too much of this isn't a giveaway at all, but when Nancy was talking about Abby's body to her husband, I was like, you know what? That is just petty. And that's why I kept, and I'm like, she's saying out loud what we say in our heads. Like, she's...
Yes.
So anyway, it was just, I can't say enough good things about this book. And I really do think that this is such a great genre to be in right now. And, it's going to do really well. I just know it will. I did see, as a mom, when I was going through your bio, now I have 6 children. Okay.
Wow.
But they're all separated by time. Okay. And when I
You
saw
were sensible.
well, the first three were kind of close, and then you kind of understand that in order to have more, you're not going to be able to do that. But when I saw you, so you had a baby, and then
Yes.
16 months later, so you have a little boy. 16
Yes.
months later, you have identical twin boys.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
that's almost like triplets to me. That's like triplets.
It felt like it at times. Yes. Yes. It was a bit of a surprise, to be honest. Well, I mean, not the pregnancy part, but the fact that they were twins and identical. So that was a bit of a shock. But I didn't get the rough end of the deal because my husband was a stay-at-home dad. So he was at home with the youngest, with Leo, when we found out that I was pregnant again at about 7 months, when Leo was 7 months. And I was having a scan and looked at the monitor, and I knew there was more than one, but I wasn't sure how many. And I said to the doctor with this nervous, high-pitched voice, how many are there? And she said, well, there's definitely 2, but I need to check to see if there are more. And my husband's head just snapped upwards, and he was, a bit surprised. So, he was a stay-at-home dad for 7 years.
Well, people always ask me because, would you have liked to have twins? And I'm like, yeah, but there's none of my children that I want to be a twin. Like, it may have been easier at some points, but of course we always think that way. But I always think, just, the amount of work. But identical twins, I don't even know. Like, I do know twins, my friends, my kids' friends and stuff. But identical is tough to get. I mean, that is like, you don't hear that anymore very often.
I think it's 1 in 3. I think it's about 30% of twins are identicals. I think it's. I did a lot of research when we found out, because at the beginning we weren't completely sure if they were identical or not, but then very quickly they said, they're identical, and they are, and they're 2 peas in a pod. They really are.
So was it? How did you tell them, like, as babies? Like, what did you do? Dress them in different colors, or?
Gosh. Yes, so we did a number of things. So we left the wristband from the hospital on mat for a couple of weeks. And then we had a little, I just made this fabric bracelet, or ankle bracelet, if you like, that we put on Lex's foot. Because honestly, if we bathed them,
right,
and we put one in and then the other one, not that they could move at that age, we couldn't tell them apart. It was the strangest thing. So we did dress them differently. We always had Matt in blue and Lex in yellow for the longest time as well. And we were given so many clothes. My best friend had a son, and she gave us tons of clothes. My sister had 3 boys, so she gave us tons of clothes. And we didn't dress them the same. They did that sometimes for school. They checked what the other one was wearing just to mess everybody up. But we didn't really dress them the same, not very often.
Yeah, it's eventually they get their own personality, and you can then, it's just a newborn that it's like.
They do.
I knew somebody that had girls, and she'd paint the toenails of the one.
Oh, clever. Yeah. I should have done that.
Yeah, so it's a little bit, you can't do that for boys, but I'm just saying for girls, that was a good idea to do, like constantly have the one's toenails painted. So,
yeah, strange. I mean, they have different features, but I know that when people see them, who don't know them, if they see one and then the other, or they see them together, they just can't tell them apart.
Right.
But once you get to know them, there are slight differences with twins. Certainly when they were tiny,
right.
Say one would cry, and we go upstairs and, change their diaper or whatever, and then get them settled again. 5 minutes later, we think, oh no, they're crying again. What's wrong? And it would be the other one because they sounded the same.
Oh my goodness. So I just had to put my, everybody always says, oh my God, you have 6. And I'm like, oh my God, you have twins. And it was like really soon after already having
It was really soon. Yeah.
So, and now as they're teenagers, I'm like, that's what I mean. It's like triplets, because I'm sure there's not that much of a difference with 16 months. I mean, they might as well just,
they're group. It's funny because Leo physically looks a lot more like me. That's the older one. And the twins when we look at photographs of my husband, they do look more like him. It's quite funny. And Leo's just gone through a big growth spurt, so he's a lot, not a lot taller, but he is taller. But yeah, I mean, even when they were a few years old, people would stop and ask if they were triplets.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Sure. Because even with my sons that are 18 months apart, people would say, and I'd be looking at them like, do they look like twins? No, they are not twins. Obviously not twins. But anyway, but it's so, like I said, you're so inspiring for other women. I mean, you're a mom and you get to do this writing, which is not easy. And, you're still young and this is like, you're already getting this like fame and, it's very inspiring. It's very inspiring to me. So, and I know it will be for lots of other moms out there. It's like, you got your own thing going and it's awesome. And you're part of a community of women that are just, I mean, it's crazy, like you got so much backup. I love seeing you guys like promoting each other's books and on Instagram I can see it all the time and Facebook and I'm like, oh, I love that. I love that you're always like know what's going on with another author, like you promote like the release dates and stuff like that.
Yes, it's hugely important. I met so many women at the BoucherCon, that's the crime and thriller writing festival, which it happens every year, late summer, September, October. This year it's in Florida. Last year it was in Toronto for the first time. And it was phenomenal. I made so many fantastic connections. I met so many brilliant authors, male and female, but there's a particularly strong group of women who were there. And it was just, I've worked in different industries, the recruitment industry and industrial and whatnot, but this really is the first industry that I've seen where people are so supportive. It's incredible because just because somebody buys my book doesn't mean that they won't buy somebody else's. Right. And we just all love books. So it's not, it doesn't feel competitive. It feels incredibly supportive and it's truly wonderful. It really, really is.
Yeah. And, as a reader, and I know that I read more books than the normal person, but even before I did this, I always read a book a week. So, you realize that by promoting readers, you're promoting books as a whole, and that's what is so awesome. I mean, I see readers all the time on different, and bloggers. We got bloggers now and, book clubs and all that stuff is still alive and well. So, I love being a little part of it. It makes me really happy.
It's amazing. I mean, it's so amazing that there are so many people who blog and who will talk about books. And yourself, you're doing these interviews, and it's just fantastic because it gives us the opportunity to share what we do, but more importantly, to be able to connect with people who like what we do. Because certainly, 20, 30 years ago, if I liked a book, I liked a book, and that's great. But the author doesn't necessarily know or didn't know, because unless I wrote a fan letter, which I don't think I've ever done, and it's so much easier now. You can post reviews. You've got Goodreads, you've got Amazon, you've got and blogs and things. And it's just an Instagram. It's phenomenal to be able to be in touch with people who like what you're doing. It just feels great.
Yeah, and I think it's a really exciting time because of having the social media connection. When I was a little girl reading books, the authors were unknowns. I didn't know who they were.
Exactly.
But I got your book from a book blogger. On Instagram, and we go back and forth. She'll recommend me books. I recommend, and that's what's so exciting because we know what we like, and it's like, oh, I just got a hold of this book. You're going to love it, and then, we kind of pass them around, and I love that. So anyway, but what are you working on next before we have to go?
Well, I handed in the manuscript for my third book to my editor a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, that's always, it's always a bit scary to think, can I do this again? Can I write another one? Or is my imagination going to fail me? Or is my strategy going to fail me? Or do I have a strategy? It depends on the day. But the one I just handed in is a story about a man whose partner of 5 years dies in an accident. And he starts to wonder whether her 7-year-old son is who she says or said he is. And
like
if
it.
he isn't, who is he?
Wow. I
So
love that concept
just being
already.
delivered. Yeah, yeah. So now we'll go through the editing process, and once Michelle gets her hands on it, it will become far better because editors are awesome.
Well, they are. And, please let me know when that one,
Of
when you got
course.
that ready to go, cuz
Of
I read it, we can talk about it. I loved it. Love to be a part of it. So, anyway,
Brilliant.
hold up the book because I want everybody to see this cover. I love this cover because it makes you think that it's all perfect.
And it isn't.
And it isn't. That's what I'm saying. When I first saw the cover, I was like, oh, "Okay, this is gonna be cute." And right away, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no! Hold on, this has got way
Cute it
more."
is not, no. Well, there might be cute bits in it, I hope. I hope there's some
Oh,
bits that make you go, "Aw." But,
very cute bits. Well, of
yeah.
course, because we've got the kids, and the kids are the sweetest part of it. I think, because
Oh,
they're just
really? Oh.
they're just kind of, it's nothing's their fault, and they're just kind of along for the ride. And I love, their parts in it, and especially the daughter, because I
Yes.
had daughters, so I get
Yes.
that. And every time she snooped in her diary, I had a little pang of guilt.
Oh, I know. I know. That's really bad. But she had to.
She had to. And you know what? I have to say, like, as many times as I've walked away from my daughter's diaries, my oldest daughter especially, because she used to only like to write when she was mad at me. Like, her diary would be blank, 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 and then mom is horrible, I hate her, blah, blah, blah. And I, of course, get it when those were happening. And then if I said anything, she'd be like, oh my God, you read my diary. But she'd leave it, you just know, like,
An invitation, really.
invitation, read about how much I hate you, and then feel bad about it.
Oh, no. My sons don't write diaries. Not that I know of.
They
So,
don't write diaries.
yeah.
No, and I
Yeah.
get blocked on their Twitter, so that's fine. It's all good. Thank you so much, Hannah. This was so much fun, and I can't wait to see what this book does. Everybody, this book comes out March 13th.
That's right.
March 13th. So you will be seeing lots of stuff all over the place about this book, and I'm so excited for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll be talking soon, okay?
Yes, we will.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you everyone for watching. That was so much fun. I love Hannah. She was so sweet and her book is so good. I'm not kidding. Okay? This book is going to do great things for her and I can't wait to see. I will have all of Hannah's links listed underneath this video. Thank you, Hannah. I'm so happy to have met you. I can't wait for her next book. If you enjoyed watching our video, please hit like. If you'd like to get notified of my videos every day, hit subscribe. And I just want to thank you if you made it this far for watching my video. Have a great day.